Welcome to the Loveland Report and Lone Ranger Show. I am Cleve Loveland, Central Florida's best real estate planner, alongside Bruce Woodburn, the Lone Ranger.
Baby.
And we are talking about everything in real estate, everything in mortgages, what's going on with this market. Post-election, I think we've got nothing but good news, but we got a little bit of bad news. I'm going to go over inventory.
I don't know if it's so bad or it's just things aren't getting where we want them.
It's typical, like you wake up and
want.
you think about the great election news, but then you think, Joe's still president. Anyway, I got Bye Bye Bye. We're going to talk about that, not the NSYNC song. And we're going to talk about tax tips for the end of the year and what you can do to lessen those the tax burden, what you might have to pay, and or you're going to talk to people what they need to do to get qualified, especially if they're self-employed, before they finalize their tax returns. That'll be coming up in the spring or coming up next year. I want to show you what you can do to be set up to buy a house. All right.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about reverse mortgages. I definitely want to cover what the market's doing in terms of interest rates. What's going on with interest rates? Are interest rates really where you need them to be to buy or to refinance right now? And I'm going to dive deep into that so that you've got a real good idea. And then what can we expect in the future for interest rates, and where are the opportunities right now? Because anytime there's something negative, there's something positive, and investors are looking for those negatives because they turn them into positives. And we're going to dive into that and really discuss how you can take advantage of this market when it is slower than typical. So what do we got here then?
Well, inventory right now, I got the numbers for October. So this is through most of the year. And we've had about a 5-month supply, Bruce. And anything more than a 6-month supply is where prices would kind of be flat. Like a 7-8 month supply, prices would probably be coming down. So we've had inflation. The median price is up 3% over last year. We're at 389.
Okay.
The average price is 477. That's up 6.5%. It was 448 last year. That was good. But the inventory being at this price, now the sales is the problem. Interest rates, people worn out by their grocery bills, worn out at the gas pump. And the inventory is still 11,357 homes. If I average the last 6 months,
yes,
it's about 11,000, about a 5-month supply. The sales have been getting slower and slower, like 2,000. Let's see, last 3 months, 2,600. Is that crickets? We got crickets.
Yes, crickets.
Thank the producer for that. And then we've got the last 2 months was like 2,200 sales and 2,100 sales in October. And we're probably gonna have less than that in November.
What is a healthy month?
A healthy month in Central Florida
5,000?
No, 3,500. This is just resales, not including new. So 3,400 to 4,000, and booming is around 4,000 and up. But so we're having kind of subpar ho-hum months. But the thing is, inventory is not spiking tremendously. It's slowly grown. And then one thing I noticed here about the inventory, Bruce, I'm looking at this, the number of single family homes has gone down the past 2 months. Actually, the past 3 months, the number of single family homes for sale, you know what's doubled? You are all out. You are on that board today. All right. And so we've got condos.
Oh boy.
Condos have just about doubled. Almost doubled in the last year of what's for sale. Now, inventory has less than doubled, but condos have doubled, and that's the condo dues. Everybody's getting hit by insurance. Those inspection costs, if it's an older unit, has to comply with all those new engineering rules.
Absolutely.
And it's reflected in the dues.
And the HOA fees I see are just going through the roof on these condos.
I've got a listing today. It's funny. The HOA fee is only about 200. So it's a great little unit, great little single story unit. We're going to talk about that one's only 215,000. But that's one part I see. And so here's some opportunities. If you're a buyer, there could be some good buys in condos because there's a lot on the market. And those fees will probably stabilize, and I don't know if they'll ever come down because the insurance market is getting better. There's some new players in the state. And so that's just kind of a ripple effect.
What? And I don't know if it really means it's going to get better or not get worse. You know what I mean? It's hard to see and tell. Are we going to have cheaper insurance prices, or are they just not going to keep skyrocketing on us? That I don't think.
I don't think they're going to keep skyrocketing. I've talked to some insurance people, and they are seeing some relief in certain sectors. And it's just, then we had the 2 storms on the coast, but it's hey, crazy. 2 storms back to back. It's not like they're going to have double claims. If the house was destroyed in the first one, their second claim's not that big.
Absolutely.
Stuff like that. So,
hey, listen, if you want to reach Cleve, he's available now at 407-352-8118. That's 407-352-8118. You can watch him on Bruce Woodburn, the Lone Ranger YouTube channel, Spotify, or iHeartRadio. Also, Cleve can be easily reached at cleveloveland.com. That's cleveloveland.com. And he's got a team of people available to help you right now. if you'd like to reach the loan arranger, you got questions about financing, you've got questions about, should you buy, should you refinance, what should you do right now? Is this the right time? Call the loan arranger at 407-250-9144. That's 407-250-9144, or webringyouhome.com.
So we talked about a big chunk of the market in inventory, Bruce. I think buyers should be out there now. We're going to come into a better year next year. I think 2025 will beat 2023. Yes. I don't think that'll be too hard, even if rates are kind of stubborn. What do you think and they hang out in the sixes? What do you think they're going to do?
Well, here's what I think is going to happen. It's going to take a little bit of time for Trump to get his legs on in here. I don't think this is going to happen overnight. I honestly don't. I think that what's going to happen is he's going to start drilling. He's going to start fracking, and that's going to relieve the inflation, which will help the bond market. And that's what it's going to take for the bonds to improve, for interest rates to drop. So right now, I mean, we're seeing interest rates up. I mean, they're up considerably from what they were even before the initial Fed cut of a 0.5 point down back in September 18th. Then we had another cut. What was it, on November 6th or 7th? And that didn't help either.
And right now, the next meeting's about 4 weeks away, and there's about a 60% chance we'll get a little cut, a 1/4 point cut. So that'll be interesting to see too. But that inflation could come under control. When they see the inflation under control, then the bond market should do better.
Absolutely.
And right now, the Fed cuts have not really said, hey, inflation's under control. We're starting that process, but let's get the money came out of the bonds into the stock market, which had a little rally for a little while going.
That's right.
So, and that kind of caused the rates to kind of tick up. So we're still, you're great credit. You're in the sixes.
You're in the sixes. You could be in the sevens right now, depending on where your credit scores are. But I mean, right now, here's what I'm telling people. If you're looking to buy, and you need to buy because, you had a child, your family's expanding, you're making more money.
Ds.
You got to move. Yeah. The 5 Ds. What is that? Divorce.
Let's do it from the beginning. Diamonds.
So
diapers,
marriage, diapers, kids, divorce,
death, and downsizing. Downsizing, I guess, would be before death.
That's right.
So all those things are still happening in our market. So.
But if that's you, then maybe refinancing or purchasing is the right thing to do. However, if you're just trying to lower your interest rate and lower your payment, I don't want you to refinance right now. Now, listen, there's not too many lenders out there. They're going to tell their customers to not do business with me right now. But what I am doing is I'm setting my clients up so that their loans are approved, their documents are in, we'll hold off on ordering an appraisal. What we're going to do is watch that market. And when that rate drops, we need to be ready to strike. So if that's you're trying to drop your payment, you bought anytime after, say, March of 2022, you are probably paying higher than you wanted to pay an interest rate, more than likely. If that is you, then I want you to call me at 407-250-9144. That's 407-250-9144, or webringyouhome.com. Let me get you set up. You're not going to have any pressure. Nobody's going to push you into doing something. I'm the only one telling you not to do something, but let's get ourselves prepared. So if that's what you want some help, the loan arranger is right here to help you. 407-250-9144, or webringyouhome.com.
All right. So I just think that we're just heading into a better economy. Housing's not horrible. But it's like, there's not a lot of foreclosures out there. You guys don't have any defaults, right?
No,
People got equity. And thank goodness I think part of that's because we had 3% and 4% rates coming out of COVID, and people locked in their 2% 15-year note, all those things that built equity. And I really think we're going to come into another wave of that next year. Rates get down into the 5s. What will 15-year rates be?
Well, right now, 15-year rates are averaging around 6.25.
So, but if 30-year rates get down into the 5s, 15
then you're going to have rates probably in the 4s.
So something like that, locking in that rate, that 15-year rate to build equity quicker. Those are the things that protect your family from these downturns. God forbid we get somebody else like Sleepy Joe. I mean, he does take the title for the worst one ever, away from Jimmy Carter. I think that's why Jimmy Carter's still alive.
I would take Jimmy Carter over him.
Thank God we don't have to do that. But it's just, I just think there's still people moving to Central Florida. I just had 2 calls last week. People fed up with the storms at the coast. they're selling their vacant lot where their house used to be. They're taking their big fat insurance check. Their house was paid off. They're moving here to Central Florida. They're getting a little more house for their money, a little security, not having to deal with those storms. But they just don't want to go through the rebuild process. They don't want to do that. So,
well, speaking of that, I got news that over in Sarasota, the coast that got hammered by both hurricanes, right? Sarasota down there, even down as far as Punta Gorda, that they're seeing a significant decline in price now, as much as 3%. Okay, which is a little bit more than we would have expected. But here, I want you guys to think about this. Why is that? Because people are freaking out because of the hurricanes. They got hammered with 2 of them, almost 3 of them, right? In 1 year. So people that aren't used to that start to freak out, and they're going to cut bait on their properties. And that's what they're doing right now. Now, in my opinion, that's a buying opportunity. And I've got, a matter of fact, on my show, if you listen tomorrow, you'll hear me on my show. I've got an interview with an agent down in that area that's going to talk about the opportunities. So if you are truly thinking about buying a home, you might be able to get a deal on a home down in that area right now. Because listen, I don't care. People will forget about the hurricanes. They'll rebuild, and you still can't build more waterfront property. That's all you're going to get.
Well, that's the thing I tell people: you want to reassure or reinforce your resale value by waterfront. They're not making much more of it. I mean, they can, but it's just not done a lot. So lakefront, beachfront. Now, beachfront, you get within that wind zone, your insurance is going to be more expensive. You get within a couple miles of the coast. So I'm not sure how far that wind zone goes, about 20 miles, 10, whatever it is.
Who knows?
But but that is some buying opportunities for people that want to go down there. And I've got a friend of mine actually looking to retire down that way. Now, he's not going to be waterfront, but he's actually saw the inventory spike up on some homes. And it was the inland homes that got roof damage, that got other windstorm damage, but not flood damage. So, but I just think before we got a couple minutes left here, Bruce, I just think this is going into a good market. Right now,
there's opportunities, Cleve.
I've got people listing, and it's funny. I'm listing 3 this week that 2 of the houses that basically, Bruce, were 340.
Yes.
What was hilarious is there was when I checked at 340, they had no competition, and all the sales are 340. This house was 340. Both houses were around 340. But when I checked from 350 to 400, guess how many were active?
How many?
There was 20 other actives. So my listings will be in the market.
Where theirs are out of the market.
On the market. They're on the market, but they're not in the market. They're way too high.
And they're all sitting on the market.
They're wondering what's going on. So
sellers have to be aggressive right now. You look what Cleve's telling you. Now listen carefully what Cleve just told you. There's an abundance of inventory. Now, if you're a seller, that might put you at a slight disadvantage, but how often? And I'll bet you your houses on average, and I'm going to just go out on a limb, Cleve, are not selling for more than 3% under ask price.
Most of mine. Yeah.
They're not. They're selling close to ask price.
And this is the thing, Bruce. I mean, that 340, those homes are going to list at and probably sell really close to that. That 340 is a profit.
Right.
And that price is higher than what they were selling for a year ago.
You don't make the price. The market makes the price.
What
right?
you got is a bunch of people that don't know how to run a market analysis. And you can't just ask the seller, what do you want? I mean, you can,
sure,
but you got to have a price based in fact. What were the 3 most recent sales? And then let's say, you're in a small subdivision and there's nobody's turned over in your neighborhood. Your neighborhood's only 4 years old. Most people haven't started moving yet. You got to look at what's within a couple miles of you. Are you a 4-3 with 2,400 square feet, nicely done with a pool? So you got to check a couple miles around. Most agents are never taught this.
Right.
And all they can do is look at maybe the county tax valuator, go online for $1 per square foot valuator, but that doesn't tell you, okay, but you don't know that house that sold for a low price, all the baseboards were chewed up by the 4 pit bulls that used to live there. And you don't know that somebody just spent $100,000 on the other one that sold, unless you look in MLS. And that's what you're paying a realtor for. And also be aware of this. If you list with somebody, you should just call me first. I just had a listing, Bruce. They did not know they were not in MLS. They fired the old realtor.
They didn't know they weren't in MLS.
They assumed they were. And I said, where's your list? I said, you guys, I showed up and they said they've been trying to sell. And I thought they meant by owner. And then I looked in MLS. They were not in MLS. This broker was, they thought they were getting a deal on the commission, but it's because they weren't getting the whole enchilada. They weren't on the market. They weren't in the market. So very important. You call me about that, 407-352 8118. This is a good time of year to sell. Holidays are still cranking.
We'll be back.
407.
Hey, we got to cut loose. Cleve Loveland, 407-352-8118. The Lone Ranger, 407-250-9144.